Can you hear me now?
Yes.
What's going on? Well, we're having a little bit of issues with the ads there.
Actually, I think it froze on, I don't know what side it did. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of stopped for me. It got to a point where it went just blank, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And then I saw Butch Patrick, and then I saw something else, and then nothing else. I was like, "Huh? Well, what is up? What's going on?"
I don't know. I even played your intro, so you didn't see that?
I didn't see any of it.
Wow. Okay. So sorry, everybody.
No, you know what? Technical difficulties happen. It is what it is. We'll make it work.
There you go.
Angie, Shane, how you doing? Thanks for joining. So, welcome to the Paranormal Unveiled, guys. We have a great show tonight. Paranormal Rockdown, I see you. Tonight's guest is someone that I happen to know very well. I've known her for a very long time. Got her hand in a little bit of everything. She's a paranormal investigator. She's an author, and she's also a location owner. So the Haunted Sleeper Mortuary is an amazing place, but we'll touch on that later on in the podcast. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get this thing off and popping. Please welcome Tory Westhoff.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you guys for having me. And I did see the intro. Just so
Yeah,
you know.
I couldn't see anything.
It's
When
you,
I saw-
Nathaniel. It's you, man.
You know what? It's just one of them weeks, okay? It is what it is. But yeah,
you need to go take a salt shower or something. You got something on you. Hey,
yeah,
Morgan.
because hey Morgan, how are you? So yeah, what I saw was a black play arrow with a line through it, almost the whole thing. So I don't.
Huh.
It is what it
I
is.
don't
So
know.
Tori, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time since we've been able to catch up.
It has.
I'm excited.
Like I said earlier, I've known you for a very long time. You got your hands in a little bit of everything. So, I feel like it's best to let's just start off with the basics, okay? So what actually gained your interest in the paranormal? Like, what got you into wanting to venture in this aspect of this part of your life?
Well, the paranormal's been a lifelong interest for me. I grew up in what I believe to be a haunted house, and I'm kind of aging myself here. So this was back in the 80s, and people didn't really talk about paranormal back then, or if they did, it wasn't something that was a topic of common conversation, so to speak. So the house that I grew up in, I had a lot of experiences. That's where I saw my first shadow person. I um, started to kind of dive into paranormal happenings probably in my early teens, right around in there. You start hearing about, Bloody Mary and light as a feather, stiff as a board, and then you just kind of slowly progress into, talking about ghosts with your friends. And then my house was actually a common topic among my friends, and that's really kind of what launched me into the paranormal and my fascination with life after death.
Yeah, those urban legends like the Bloody Mary, light as a feather, stiff as a board, Candyman,
Yeah,
Blue Baby, Midnight
yeah,
Man. There are so
Mhm.
many of them that I was actually going to do a route on my YouTube channel where I was going to test out these urban legends and show people that they really don't do anything. They really don't work.
right,
Um,
right.
I will say the Midnight Man one, though, that's a little freaky. I don't know if you know anything about that one or not,
I
but
don't, I
you
don't.
you basically write a note to the Midnight Man and you slide it under your front door and wait till you hear a knock, and then you open the door, and then you have to light a candle and you have to move around the house, and if the candle goes out you have to relight it within 3 seconds using a wooden match or something like that. um that's a little extreme to me
Mhm.
because I feel like if you write a note to a spirit, you're inviting them into your house once you open that door.
Right,
So
right.
tantamount to what people think using a Ouija board would do as far as opening up that invitation. That's just one I don't think I would personally mess with at all.
I feel
So
that. I feel that.
uh,
I'm a Ouija board user. Um,
we know.
it's it's more of like an experimentation, so to speak,
So
just to
being a Ouija
see.
so being a Ouija board user, let me ask you, do you think there is any credibility to some of the responses that people get being simply the ideomotor effect?
Uh, I think a vast majority of responses are probably human made. Um, typically when I do Ouija board sessions, I will either do them by myself or I will do them with other people, but I am always blindfolded and I always have another person with me that spins the board so I don't know the orientation of the board. So there's no way that I could know the layout of the letters. Because I think that most people have a general idea of where the letters fall and where the numbers fall. And to me, I just want to eliminate that knowledge of and just basically lessen the chances of having like a subconscious answer to it. Because in my opinion, like if I'm asking Gwen, hey Gwen, what did you have for dinner? Subconsciously, you're answering the same question in your own head, so that if I
Mhm.
ask you, you already have your answer ready. And I think that sort of that subconscious thought translates into what you're doing on the board, whether you realize it or not. Does that make sense?
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes
Yes.
complete sense. So actually think in the picture that we used for your intro, the board was upside down. It was inverted, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it was. Yeah.
So as far as knowing the layouts of the lettering in the boards, do you use various boards so that way you can eliminate that factor of the layout altogether? Because I know different boards have
I
different
have it.
layouts.
I have it, and it's more of an access problem, just
Okay.
because I don't go out and buy a bunch of boards. I just have one that I kind of take around with me, um, and to me that was just good enough, just
It
on a
is.
personal level of just trying to experiment and try to figure it out. I can say in the probably year and a half to 2 years that I've been doing that, I've gotten a legitimate response maybe a handful of times. I do think it
Interesting.
works. Don't get me wrong. I do think it works, but I don't think that it's as scary as people think it is. And I think that there's more reliable methods and forms of communication than a Ouija board, for sure, by
Yeah,
far.
yeah, I agree. And for me, in my opinion, I feel like Hollywood has kind of added the stigmata to the Ouija
Yeah,
board because you got all these
I would
horror
agree with
movies
that.
that come out and they all stem from someone using a Ouija board. I mean, I personally, I've got one here. I've got two at my ex's house in the shed that were given to me by people that swore they were haunted, but I never had an experience around them. Um, I feel like Hollywood has really made that into something that it's definitely not, and it overshadows the plausibility of the usefulness of the board if you use it with the correct intention.
And I do think that intention plays a lot into it. At the end of the day, we all do investigations. We have different reasons, but part of it is because it's fun and you like to get jump scared. And if that adds to your experience by whatever you think that it means or is, then I mean, what's wrong with it? You
Yeah,
know what I
I
mean?
mean, I agree. We all like the little jump scares sometimes.
Yeah.
And unless I'm in a private residence, anytime I'm in another kind of location, if I have an opportunity to lure one of the investigators off by themselves unknowingly and scare them, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah,
We we all
That's
deserve
good
that.
to know. It's
Keep
good
that
to
in
yeah,
know.
mind, Gwen, because we all deserve that one. I just about my pants moments, like we all do, and
yeah.
it's all in good fun as long as the person doesn't punch you in the face. I've actually seen that happen before, so
A
did
good
not
Yeah,
man's
happen.
that
dream.
long. Yeah.
Did not happen to me. It happened to one of my investigators. He decided to jump scare a friend of ours, and he got popped right in the mouth.
Hmm.
Oh, shoot. That wasn't very fun, was it?
Not
I
for
guess you
him.
got
It
to know
was.
your audience.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was fun for me. I mean, because honestly, I wish that guy would shut up half the
You were
time.
on
So it
the
was fun for
receiving
me.
end.
Yeah. So let's transition from that a little bit into this book series, the We Are book series. I know you have a few in the works, correct, that are not actually published yet.
I do. I do.
Okay.
I have some more series coming to We Are Asylum 49. I just haven't had time to sit down and do it just yet because my schedule's been so packed and full that I haven't had time to sit down and actually write it. The research is done. I just
Nice.
don't have it put in book format so far.
So the We Are Edinburgh Manor is done, correct, and published.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So
That was the
going off.
second book I released.
Okay, so going off of the premise of those two books, which I still have to get them, by the way, I just haven't yet, but I
No,
will.
you're good.
So when it comes to those books, can you explain to everyone the premise behind it? Because if I am understanding this correctly, it is about the location, but it's also about the people that resided in the location, so that their stories were not forgotten. Correct?
Correct. Correct.
So can you go
When I
into a little bit of detail as far as like the research, how you did the research for that, like how you came across this information of these people?
Yeah. So my goal as a paranormal investigator is to establish a rapport with the spirits that you may or may not have interactions with. And I think that we can all say at some point in our career or another, when you look at a haunted location, you feel like the amount of death that took place at a certain building translates to how haunted it may or may not be, based on that. And that's kind of what got me kind of started in this whole thing. I visited Malvern Manor, and I asked Josh who if he knew how many people died in that building, because back then, in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, like if there's a lot of people that passed away here, it must be haunted, which isn't not true. I mean, I will say that. It's not true. But he said, well, I don't really know. And that's kind of what sparked the research part of it, into because We Are Malvern Manor was the first book that I did, and I worked with Josh to accomplish that book. And I sat down and I started finding newspaper articles. I find them, everything that is in those books, it can be found online. It's not anything that was secretly given to me or things that people aren't supposed to see, like HIPAA violations,
Right,
none of
it's
that.
public knowledge basically.
Yes, it's public knowledge. I basically just do the research and I put it into book format to make it easily accessible to paranormal investigators that are investigating these locations. But the premise is that it opens up an avenue of conversation, with the spirits that you may or may not come in contact with while you're there. So basically, I go through and I look up and I find all of this that I can find at any given location. And I put those people in alphabetical order by first name. And their first name appears on the lower right hand page of the corner. And the goal is to be able to find the names quickly and easily while you're walking through a building. And typically, when you're talking to somebody on like a spirit box, you typically get a first name. And that is why I put it in alphabetical order by first name. And if I find that this person was called, let's say, Tom instead of Thomas, it will be in alphabetical order by his nickname and not his given name, because that's likely
Smart.
what he would have been called when he was living.
Right.
In the back of that, there are indexes that put it in alphabetical order by last name, by year of death, and by month of death. And that kind of gives you an opportunity, to easily find people, in regards to that kind of information if you were to get it. So each person has a page, and on that page, it has their obituary, it has their death certificate if they have one that's public knowledge, it has pictures of them if I can find it, their find a grave information. And while I'm going through and I'm doing all of this research, I upload everything that I get to Find a Grave, for their
I
Find a
love
Graves
Find a
in
Grave.
case. hmm So I
That's
upload
great.
all of that information to their Find a Grave, and if they don't have a Find a Grave, I create one for them so that if they have family that is looking for them, then they have easy access to information that I pay to get. I feel like that, is the right thing to do, so I also do that. But yeah,
I didn't
it
know.
it has
So I didn't
everything about
know.
them.
So I didn't know that aspect of it, and I love that because I use Find a Grave a lot. I think
hmm
it's a very underutilized tool that
hmm
a lot of people out there probably doesn't even, they don't even know it exists.
Now, lots
Yeah,
don't.
I would agree with that.
And it's very helpful when you're part of the New Hampshire Gravestone Preservation Program, where once every 6 months we go out, we pick a cemetery, and we clean the cemetery stones. So
hmm
it's very helpful for that because you can kind of look for the older graves that are going to be grimy. They're going to be they're in dire need of some kind of repair.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's so helpful.
I agree.
So
I
so
agree.
basically,
I love
what
finding
what you're so basically what you were doing is like what I did here. Like this right here is all the graves that are listed in the Medfield State Hospital Cemetery.
hmm
It's
Yeah.
it's so amazing the things that you find out when you're researching these people too.
Yeah. Yeah. I found out so many cool stories doing it. That is how Poor Farms gained a special place in my heart, is because of We Are Edinburgh Manor. Edinburgh Manor is an old poor farm, and that is where I learned what poor farms were, why they existed, the kind of atrocities that went on there. And I have educated myself with poor farms thoroughly. And even if I'm not writing a book, there are times where I go to the county and what any given county that I choose. Like if I don't have something going on, which is rare these days, but I still
Yes,
do it.
very
I'll
rare.
pick a poor farm and I will start doing research on that particular poor farm and start entering find a grave information under find a grave just for those people.
So this one right here is going to be kind of like a multi-part question. If you've never caught my show before, I have a very problematic issue with asking multi-part questions. I can't
He
help
loves
myself.
it. He loves it.
So we're going to go back to the beginning of our original conversation as far as to what got you into the paranormal and stuff like that, and all of the investigations that you've done. So, it's, like I said, multi-part question. Has there ever been a moment where you hit that I just want to get out of here and don't want to be in this building anymore moments? And then when you're going
Yes.
through all of when you're going through all of this history and stuff, when you're researching your books, has there ever been a story that you found throughout these poor farms that just stuck out to you and resonated with your heartstrings more than any other story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say one of my most recent happenings with wanting to leave a building, um, I was actually in my own mortuary, and I was just carrying along, just doing what I do. You know, I was cleaning up, getting ready for a group that was going to come in a few days. But I had the time off, so I went through and I done what I needed to do in order to get it ready. That way, all I had to do was walk in there, tour, and go home. That was the goal. While I was in there, I was doing a live stream on TikTok. And I have recently acquired a mid to late 1800s Oddfellows casket. It still has human biological material inside of it. Um, and the only thing that I could really pin it to is this casket, but I don't know that for sure. There still has to be a lot of figuring out to do with the mortuary before that determination could be made, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But I started sweating. I got anxious. I got tearful. I mean, I was on live stream this whole time and I was just fearful. Excuse me. And I had to leave. Like, and I did. Like I shut my live stream down and I picked up my keys and I left. That was it. Done. Trash bag in the middle of the floor, everything. Like I was
All right.
out. I
So we'll
bounced.
get part. So now we're gonna add in the third tier to this question. We'll get back to the second part of the question in just a second. When you have those moments during an investigation, I feel like you can agree with me on this. It is best to trust your instincts. If you're feeling that way and your body's telling you not to be there, your best thing
hmm
to do is just shut it down, even if it's temporary, and just walk outside.
Yeah.
Get your breath back. Would you say that's valid?
I would agree with that because I feel like even you can't logically think about something when you're not logically thinking. When you're fearful and you're feeling some type of way, when things happen, I just don't feel like you can logically like think yourself through it. I don't
Hey, Christy,
know
thanks for joining.
which I don't know how to say it. I don't mean it in like a negative way, but I feel like speaking for myself in that moment, I had to get out because like my brain was racing 1,000 miles an hour. I didn't know why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. The building felt occupied, for the lack of a better term. It It felt different. It felt scary. And I was not able to rationalize the things that were happening, I guess. Um, at that point, everything is paranormal. Every little sound you hear, every little feeling, every thing that, and I think it also opens you up to like seeing things out of the corner of your eye when you normally wouldn't see it because you're fearful and you're on high alert and um your goal is to stay safe. You get that fight or flight type thing. And I just
Right.
don't feel like you can rationally, I feel like I'm rambling, but I don't feel like you
You're
can
not.
rationally and logically think when you're in that state. And I think that in some situations, you need to have that in order to do the things that you're trying to accomplish in a safe manner.
I agree with that. For me, whenever you encounter something that feels that way to your body, right? I feel like your
Hmm.
mind becomes hyper vigilant. It hyper focuses
Hmm.
on every little thing around you.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
things out of the corner of your eyes. You hear noises that you normally wouldn't hear before. And it's not necessarily that it's paranormal. It's you're trying to work your way out of the building so you yourself can calm down and remain safe. But you are always questioning, what was that? What did I hear? What did I see?
Mhm.
And it's not like you have a
Yeah.
disembodied voice screaming at you, which I know for a fact you've had that happen at the mortuary. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that video on TikTok, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, what? That was insane to me. We need to
Yeah.
touch on that too at some point because I want to talk
Yeah.
about that. But I really want to get into this Oddfellows casket. We may not even get to the second part of the original question now. Um, you say Oddfellows
Yeah.
casket, I think napping spot, to be honest.
I wouldn't nap there. I wouldn't nap there. Um,
No?
so I actually came across this casket on Facebook Marketplace of all places. It was listed for sale.
Why can't I ever
I
get
knew
that
what I
lucky?
was looking at. I don't even know how I found it. The only thing that I can think of is the universe. Just the stars aligned and the angels sung, and there it was. And I knew I had to have it the minute that I saw it. I knew what it was. So those unfamiliar with,
Matt.
hey Matt, oh my buddy, I miss you.
Matt is such an
Um,
awesome guy. I had him on the show a few weeks back. Awesome
yeah,
guy. I love Matt to death. He's
yep,
awesome.
I adore him. I adore him. But anyway, this Oddfellows casket. Um, for people that are unfamiliar with the Oddfellows, they were a secret society. According to the public eye, they were do-gooders. They did a lot of charity things. Um, in my opinion, they did a lot of darker things too that maybe the public wasn't necessarily aware of. So Oddfellows, I would venture to say all chapters of the Oddfellows had human remains. Typically, they used them for ceremonies. They used them for my particular one was used for props and plays. It came out of Iowa. When all of the chapters closed in Iowa, they shipped all of the memorabilia from the Oddfellows to a couple of centralized locations in Iowa, and they auctioned them off back in the 1990s.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, this casket was never made to be buried. It was made for ceremonies and plays and that kind of thing. All I know about it is that there was a 14-year-old American Indian female that occupied the casket. I don't know how long she was in there. I don't know when she passed away. I don't know anything about her other than she was 14. And then when they were going to auction this off as a public auction, that you can't auction off human remains. So then she was buried in Guthrie Center, Iowa, somewhere. I don't have her name. I don't have anything. So that's all I have to go off of. In the casket itself, um, I was told it was adult size, which back in the days that I would think that she occupied this casket, because the casket itself is mid to late 1800s. I don't know if she was placed in the casket prior to 1900s. She could have
They were
been.
shorter back
I
then.
don't know. Yeah. Well, and 14-year-olds were considered adults back then because our life
Correct.
expectancy wasn't as long. Um,
Correct.
but you can see staining in the casket. You can see where her ribs were. You can see where her spine was. and that is human biological material left over in the casket from when she occupied it. Um,
That
you'll
that's
likely
insane.
never see one in the public again. Yeah,
I
but I
would
have
love
it
to
on
travel to
display.
the I would love to travel to the mortuary to see one in the wild, to be honest, because
I
that is
would love to
amazing.
have you. I
Yeah,
would love to have you.
if I ever get out that way, for sure.
It's definitely considered an oddity. But in my eyes, I know some people think it's really weird to have stuff like that, and I agree. Like that, normal people don't have caskets like that sitting for people to come and look at and whatever. But if it had to happen, if the scenario had to happen, I'm just glad that the casket and what remains of her is in a place where she's going to be memorialized properly. I tell her story. I have a board out that has her entire story on it. I talk about
I
it
love that.
often.
That's great.
And if I can find, or if anyone can find out who this female was, just inbox me and I will give you all the information I have about her. And if you can find her, I will definitely give you credit for the find.
I
But
would
I am currently,
I would love to try to use my investigative skills to dig into that story and see what I can find.
yeah, yeah. I'm actively trying to find out who this female was, and I have had no luck
So
at
I'm
all.
kind of curious with it being with the casket, right? I'm kind of curious because I know the Odd Fellows. One of their weird rituals were during initiation, they would stick someone face to face with a human corpse, so that way they could, I guess you could say, contemplate their own life on this earth as far as how they wanted to live it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm kind of curious if that actually tied into that specific ceremony.
I mean, it could have. It's hard to say, and the bad part about it is that we're probably not ever going to find out where she came from. Um, I doubt that she was acquired by ethical means. In my opinion, anyway, I can't imagine that. Um, I don't know where they got her. I'll just say that. Like
Okay,
I don't know where
so
they got her.
curiosity.
Um,
If there's biological matter in the casket, right? Do you think there would any
mhm.
way? Do you think there would be any way to get enough of a sample to have sent off for a DNA test, so that way you could find, at least some kind of ethnicity lineage?
That's a good question, and that actually may be something I consider in the future because I do really want to find out who she is because I feel like it's important. Like her story mattered and it was important, and if I can
Yes, it does.
preserve it and tell it, then that's what I'm going to do. I always wanted to use a platform if I had a platform to tell
You
stories
have a
because they're
platform.
important and I do, and I tell the stories, and I tell all the stories that I can, and I love it. And um, memorializing the dead has always been important to me. That's part of the reason why I do the books that I do, because sometimes, like especially in poor farms, they didn't have any family outside of the people that were contained within the walls of the institution. They had nobody else, and in that sense, they were a family.
So for
But
any
I
of our
would.
guests, sorry, Tori, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
It's your show. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I would like to think that someday somebody in present day is looking for someone from early 1900s that was a part of their lineage. And if I can put that out there and tell that story and they happen to find it, then if I can do that even one time, it's worth it.
No, and I love that aspect because
That's great.
I have a family member that was tied to the Salem witch trials. Her name was Esther Elwell. I have her original arrest warrant. Um, whenever
Oh, wow.
she whenever she was arrested and was sentenced to be hung for being a witch, the witch trials ended 3 weeks after her trial. So luckily she didn't get hung. But here's the thing. No one knows what happened to her after the witch trial. It's like she disappeared off the map. There's no death certificate. There's no record of death. No one knows where she went.
Hmm.
Wow.
So that's one of those things, like
It
the
makes me
work you're
wonder,
doing,
like, did they?
right? It makes you wonder. But the work you're doing now, there could be a family member somewhere in the future that picks up this book just out of curiosity. Hey, I know I had a family member that was at Edinburgh or at Melbourne.
Yeah.
Let me go and look through this.
Yeah.
And your information is going to give them the information that they want.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that is such an
I hope so.
amazing thing.
Thank you.
So touching
I
back, I
appreciate
think
that.
if I stop talking for a second, I think I have a sneeze coming on, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
No.
But so we're gonna go ahead and revert back to the multi-part question now. Has there ever been? Oh, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and jump forward. Sorry, I'm scatterbrained today, guys. It was a very long road
No,
trip.
you're
Deal
good.
with me. But so yeah, I'll circle back to that. So when you were researching Melbourne or whatever place you were researching, has there ever been a story that you came across that just hit you different? Like it pulled on your heartstrings and you were like, that is
Yes.
so sad.
Yes. That would have been the Edinburgh book. In the interesting news section, because every book has an interesting news section, and it's basically just news that's associated with the property. Whether it be, like somebody got hurt or there was a fire or whatever the case may be, just like anything that I thought other people would like to read about, right? So there was an article in the newspaper about the Poor Farm Cemetery. Now, Poor Farms, for those unfamiliar, they were basically farms that consisted of 150 to 200 acres typically, and it was considered like a self-sustaining community. So the county
How did
was
you
required.
know? How did you know what I was going to say? That was actually the question I said we'll circle back to. I was going to ask you to
Oh,
explain what a poor farm was for people who didn't know. So please continue. That was
oh,
just
I
weird.
didn't. It's for context.
Synchronicities.
But right. So the county was required, it was a government thing. The county was required to take care of the poor, the sick, the elderly, people that couldn't take care of themselves. That then became the county's responsibility. And the way that they did that they would create these institutions and put them all in a home, basically. And the able-bodied would work on these farms, which they did their own like fruit trees and their own crops and their own pigs and cows, and they harvested all of that on their own. And the people in the community, that was considered how they paid for their stay in a way. And the people that were unable to work didn't, and they just lived there. Um,
I didn't
those
see
kind
Bill
of
pop in.
people,
Hey, Bill.
those people, if you look on any kind of census record, they label them as the deaf and dumb back then. People that were blind, people that were mute, people that had genetic disorders like Down syndrome, or I mean, you name it. If they were not part of regular society, or they had people
Right.
that were unwilling or unable to take care of them, they went out to the poor farm. Unfortunately, with these poor farms, there was a lot of disease, there was a lot of abuse, there was just a lot of things that would happen to people that shouldn't ever happen to people. And also on these poor farms, they had cemeteries within the poor farm, somewhere on that 150 to 200 acre lot. They had their own cemetery because it was cheaper for the county to bury on their own land than it was to buy a plot in a cemetery and pay a mortician and all of this stuff. So they would bury their own dead on their own land.
So
And I read,
well,
there was an article. Oops, sorry.
I was going to say, going into that before you get to the article,
Hmm.
am I incorrect in saying that a lot of times with these poor farms, since they were state funded, right, that they didn't
Yes,
really bury the dead with any form of formality? They were basically just given a marker with a number.
right,
So
right.
in a way,
Sometimes
you're
not
not
even that.
recognized. Yeah,
That's what
you're
I
not.
was about to say. Sometimes no, they didn't have any in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes they didn't even have that. They just put up a little cross.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so continue to the article. Sorry, I
Um,
wasn't trying to interrupt.
no, you're fine. No, you're fine. So in the research of Edinburgh Manor, I found this article where they were talking about the Poor Farm Cemetery and about how they had to make it bigger because as they were digging a grave for one of the people that had recently passed away, they chopped off the legs of another corpse. So they were burying them on top of each other, and they had
Almost like
run
a
out of
potter's grave.
space. Yeah, yeah, they all were. All of them were.
Yeah.
So that is one
That's sad.
article and one piece of research that kind of stuck out that just kind of made my heart sad. Is it's unfortunate and it's sad. And there was a lot of things that happened on poor farms that shouldn't have. Like, back in the poor farms popped up around 1860, 1850, probably at the earliest. Became real common probably 1880, 1890, right in there. They started becoming pretty common. And, back then women couldn't own land. So their husbands would die. They would be shipped off to the poor farm because they couldn't own land back then. So her and her children would go to the poor farm because they can't have a job. They can't own land. They can't work. They can't do any of that stuff. So they would go off to the poor farm and likely they would catch a disease and they would pass away. And sometimes they would separate children from mother. They would send the children to an orphanage
Yes.
against the will of the mother, and they would be separated. It was sad, and a lot of times they would put the mentally ill inside poor farms as well. So they would double as a home for the sick and disabled, and also the mentally ill. That was also a common practice.
Correct. And
Have
there's
you ever?
also
Sorry.
go ahead, Gwen. No. Oh, Gwen, you're the co-host. You get to ask questions too.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Have you ever run across one that had like a mass grave because of a pandemic type outbreak?
Um, that's hard to answer because they didn't really keep very good records of like who was buried in what
Yeah.
plot. I would say
Right.
probably that happened quite frequently, but unfortunately there's no data that would lend to that being the case. Does that make sense? There's
Right.
nothing that I have
Yeah.
found other than that article where they were digging a grave for a recently deceased and mutilated a corpse with a shovel trying to dig it. That to me indicates that they likely were putting them on top of each other, and they also
Yep.
were not buried in any kind of enclosure, no coffin or anything like that. They were just put in the ground and buried.
That's
So if
sad.
I
I know
so if
somebody
I
And a lot of times they didn't even have services.
yes, correct.
They would die
Right.
one day and then they would bury them the next day.
And if my memory serves me correctly from doing small amounts of research on poor farms, it wasn't just the people that were physically disabled, because obviously they're self-sustaining farms. That's why they call them farms. The able bodies, they were put to work. They would work in
Mhm.
various places throughout the farm. But there was also people that were mentally unstable and probably dangerous placed into these locations as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there
And
was
no
a lot
law.
of articles that there was a lot of articles that I've seen where because they would have like superintendents of the poor farm, and basically this person and his wife, which would be the matron, and their children would live on the poor
Mhm.
farm in a different building, and they would basically not really even take care of these people, but they were watching, making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do, kind of like a bookkeeper, only glorified, I guess.
Right.
They were paid by the county to do so. A lot of poor farms, if people want to research their local poor farms, they were located very close to the county seat, because they would send people from the county to take care of them, like doctors when they were sick, would come from the county seat. So a lot of times they were located very close to their county seat.
I would have to
But
research
yeah,
that. That
yeah.
as far as to my knowledge, I don't know if there was any in New Hampshire, but I have to assume there was.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was. It was required by the U.S.
Oh yeah.
government for them. At one point in time, they were called almshouses. They call them
Okay, we
poor
do have a few of
farms.
those here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, poor farms, almshouses. The county home, that was another name for them. They got carted off to the county home.
Yeah.
And it was a very Neanderthal version of Medicaid, state government assistance. And um, probably around the mid 1950s, early 1960s, you start to see um, it transition because we had TB hospitals pop up. So we would send people with TB that were sick to these TB hospitals, and they were no longer occupying the poor farms. So your amount of residents in the poor farms went down drastically. And when it became kind of taboo, the county would turn it into a county-run nursing home, and that started probably 1950, 1960. So you would see it from like, let's just take Ashmore Estates, for example. Instead of being Coles County Poor Farm, it would be Coles County Care Facility. So because they tried to take the taboo out of the name, they transitioned these homes into nursing homes later in their life. There are still county homes that are ran today. They're just county run nursing homes.
See, that is so fascinating to me.
Hmm.
So we're running at about 16 minutes left in the show, Tori. We want to hit hard on this. So I
No,
want to
you're
know,
good.
how does one come across the opportunity to own a mortuary? Like
Well, my
to
opportunity
me,
We want
happened by
one.
accident.
I have a house that's like up the road from me that I'm relatively sure through my research used to be a funeral home. And the
Ooh.
thing goes up for sale every 7 or 8 months. Like people move in, and 7 or 8 months later, they move out. That tells me I want to move in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so how does
So,
one come across acquiring that? Like that is an amazing opportunity.
people don't really talk about that often. And like, I don't know if it's like a form of like gatekeeping or like, I don't know. It took me a long time. I researched properties for about 5 years. I've went after probably 6 or 7 of them before I ended up getting the mortuary, and a lot of it was just a learning curve and trying to figure out how to execute it, really. I came across the mortuary by accident. It was actually advertised as a residential home. I did, when I looked at it, I'm like, that looks very reminiscent to a funeral home that I have locally because of the building, how it looked. And I'm like, I feel like there's something to this. So, me being the nerd I am, I searched the address in newspapers.com, and bam, it was a funeral home. And it was a funeral home from 1920, from the time that it was built, all the way up until 1998. I've
Oh.
documented 2,700 funerals in Lion States there
Ooh.
so far, and that's just the ones that I can prove. That's not the ones that weren't published or um, my research is only as good as what's available to me online, and sometimes they don't digitize those records.
Right. I'm kind of
So
glad you. I'm
Right.
kind of glad you accentuated on that because you were saying as of now. I'm like, wait, you plan on holding more there?
probably, I mean, logically, there's probably a lot more there. But yeah, I came across it by accident, and what I have learned is if you want to pursue owning a location, um, it's going to be a lot of patience, a lot of work, a lot of research. Basically, you want to create a business plan. You're going to create a
Mhm.
business plan for the bank. You're going to talk about your background, what you plan to do with the building. Personally, I put the history of the building, why building selection is imperative for my kind of business plan, projected income for an entire year, and you apply for a commercial loan. You do not want a regular residential mortgage. That is not going to work for you because a commercial loan takes into account your income potential. So instead of just going off of your yearly income, it also goes off of the income that you could potentially make in a year. And you have to break all of that
Right.
down. This is how much I'm going to charge for an overnight. This is how many overnights I expect to get a month. This is going to equal this amount. This is how many events that I'm going to hold in a month. This is how many tours I think I'm going to get. And this is how much each one of those costs, and you're going to add it up, and you're going to do that for every single month throughout the year and come up with a grand total. And your bank is going to review all of that. They're going to take in consideration the um, condition of your building. If you're going after a dilapidated property and you want a loan for that, you're likely not going to get it, because if the bank has to foreclose, then they are stuck with a property they can't sell. So they take that into consideration. Like, do we want properties to foreclose? Absolutely not. Is that the goal? Absolutely not. But also on the business side of it, for them, they have to look at the risk versus benefit.
Correct.
I've learned a lot in this process. I've learned a lot, and it takes 3 months basically for a commercial loan to go through. Once you apply, they decide if they're willing to take a risk, and they approve you for an amount, and then you make your offer. And then if it is accepted, then it takes 3 months from that date to get everything ready. And there's a lot of legwork involved in it. But if I can do it, I know anybody can do it.
It sounds like a lot of
just-
legwork and a lot of Excel spreadsheets.
It does. It does. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning every single day. I'm learning a lot about city codes and city permits and things that you're required to have, things that you, I'm just learning. And it's a good learning thing. Like, I'm happy to learn it, and I'm happy to do what I need to do. But most of all, I'm really just having so much fun. I'm having so much fun.
See, and that is what it's all about. And you bring up a good point though about like city codes and stuff like that. Like there is so much underlaying when it comes to city codes, as far as having a business license to sell merch. Like if you go to a Paracon, that I've encountered that before. There's so many different codes that people don't even realize exist. And I feel like in order to own a location like this, you're going to have to look into every single one of them, and you may miss a few and then have to go back and revamp a little bit.
So I looked into business licenses, right? So your business license is determined by the city in which you live. You don't, in cities, they either require them or they don't. My particular city does not require them.
Nice.
However, they are requiring me to get a fortune tellers and clairvoyance permit. And I have to have like a surety bond and all of these things. It's something that the city. I don't make the rules. I just have to follow them. Right?
I've never heard of that before in my life.
I haven't either. But it's something that the city has required.
Not there, but I have.
Yeah. So it's something that they require of me, and it's basically saying that I'm not defrauding people. And if that's what I have to do, then that's what I have to do. I was surprised by it, and I'm going to do it. But those are the kind of surprises that I'm talking about. You just never know. I didn't know that you had to have an inspection and have like a capacity given to you if it's open to public access. I didn't know that had.
That would go by the standard fire marshal code within the state and city.
Yep. So I had that inspection last week, I think, a week and a half ago. I didn't know that was a thing, but I found out and I got it done. And there's some things that I need to do. But I would say overall, I wouldn't let that stuff deter you, because everything that I was told, and it was a surprise, 1000% surprise. I'm standing there like scratching my head. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And I'm just blindly following these instructions and trying to get done what I need to get done, right? And then I had COVID in between all of that.
I remember you catching COVID. I've had that shit 3 times. I'm good.
Yeah. So my kiddo got it first, and she was sick 1 week, and I got it the next time, and I was sick a week. So
I didn't know that.
all of that stuff was put on hold. I didn't see what she said. Sorry, I was too busy.
She said you need a license to do that in Massachusetts as well.
Oh, do you? So
I did not.
I mean, you learn something new. Yeah,
I love learning new things.
Yeah, but overall, I wouldn't let it deter people. I think that if owning a location is a goal. I mean, you only live once,
True. So
and
do you have any plans on maybe trying to hold a Paracon there or something? Or I don't know what the limitation is as far as what the fire marshal says, the code says you can have in the building at any given point in time. But the fire code doesn't apply to the property itself. So it just applies to the building. Um,
right.
do you have any plans on maybe trying to put together a Paracon for Haunted Sleeper? Or like, is that even in the thought?
Maybe eventually, once I start figuring it out. I'm still learning about business ownership and what that looks like and how to manage it. And I think just time management overall between personal life and work life, because I still have a full-time job. Um, I don't live off of what I make at the mortuary. Actually, I'm just breaking even if I'm honest. I definitely wouldn't get into it. Um,
I saw that, Gwen.
bless you. I definitely wouldn't get into it to make money
Oh,
because
sorry,
that's
you guys.
definitely not how it's going to roll. The first year in, probably even the first five. Like I don't know what that looks like because this is my first time. But trying to figure out um, just a healthy balance between work, home, and the mortuary is I wouldn't say it's challenging, but it's definitely not easy trying to juggle all of these things all at the same time, you know.
I can
But I
imagine. And
definitely recommend it.
I
I
can
definitely
imagine it's
recommend
not
it.
easy to juggle all that, which, you know what? That's why I said thank you so much for taking an hour of your time to come and talk to us because
Oh, I love
Yes.
it. I mean,
I
this
know
is
you're
the most
busy.
relaxed I've been in a week. I
Good.
kind of
I
like
am
it.
super stoked to hear that because I like people to feel comfortable on my show.
Hey,
Yeah.
I
Nate,
see.
before you do the last thing, let's let her boost it out there. Tell everybody where it is, how they can stay there, all that, because Nate's going to ask you something real cool in just a minute.
Multiple part question per
Yes.
typical.
I love it. So, Sleeper Mortuary is located in Iola, Kansas. I'm sorry, my voice is still crusty from COVID.
It's
It's starting
okay.
to shine through in all of its glory. But I'm located in Iola, Kansas. It is probably about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours southwest of Kansas City.
Okay.
It's out in the middle of nowhere, not quite the end of the earth, but you can see it from there. Super small town, but it is a very cool town. There's a lot of history in that town, and I love it and I enjoy it. But yeah, the building itself is 3 stories, and it's about 15,000 square feet in total, 5,000 square feet per floor. The second floor is set up just like a house. It has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Each bathroom has a shower, and they all work. So basically, you bring an air mattress and some bedding, and you have a full kitchen with pots and pans. You can cook for your group. It's got a full-size refrigerator. It's temperature controlled on the second floor. Um,
This is everything I
uh,
want.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
it's very comfortable. It's very comfortable. A lot of people don't understand what they're getting when they get there overnight. I've had people rent Airbnbs thinking that they wanted to be comfortable, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was like this." But yeah, it's
That's
just as comfortable
awesome.
as walking into your own home, minus an actual bed to sleep on. You have to bring an air mattress and some bedding, and a towel if you want to take a shower.
That is
But yeah,
awesome. So Tori,
yeah.
besides where people can find the mortuary, where can people find you on TikTok if they want to
Hmm.
go and follow you on TikTok? Where can they find the mortuary as far as Facebook? Like, what other socials do you have out there that you can push?
So Facebook, it's under Sleeper Mortuary. On TikTok, I am Haunted Sleeper Mortuary. When I created that username, I didn't want people to think that a funeral home was coming into our lives and trying to drum up business or something. So I put haunted in front of it. So, because, part of starting a new business is networking. And if they saw Sleeper Mortuary, they'd be like, what the hell? Like, who's
Right?
this person?
Valid.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so I put haunted in front of it, trying to basically the flag saying, I swear to God, I'm not trying to elicit your services over
Where can
here.
people buy your
Um,
books?
Just message me. You can get most of them on Amazon, but they're more expensive and they only come in paperback. I have spiral bound versions, which was created specifically for paranormal investigators. So when you were looking through the book and you opened it, it would stay open. It would not close on you. All of the pages are made to be written on. There's space to write notes, and yeah, so
Good. Then I'll
just
send you
message
a
me.
DM. If they're made to be written on,
Yeah,
I want you to autograph mine.
yeah, for sure. And they all come with free shipping and autographs when you order them through me.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Tori, going into my last question of the night, multi-part.
I'm
You have
ready.
one. Every paranormal investigator out there has a bucket list, a place that they've never been, that it is their dream location. What would your location be?
I would say it's a location that I've never heard has been investigated, but I would say Hart Island off of the coast of New York.
Oh, that's actually a really good choice. I like
Yeah,
that.
Good answer.
yeah.
So,
That would be my number one pick,
so you've
but
got
not
the
by
island.
myself.
You've got the island. You can take one person with you, alive or dead. They do not have to be involved in the paranormal. Who are you taking?
I would say God, so that
Fair
he
enough.
can take home the people that deserve to go,
Fair enough. I like that answer.
so they
Third
don't
part
get
of that.
stuck there.
So third part of that question, you have the island. You're bringing God. What piece of equipment, and you can only bring one, are you bringing with you for your investigation there?
I would say a flashlight. I gotta see. I
I
gotta
like
see,
that.
because like in my brain, I'm like, it's in the middle of the night on an island that's wooded with like hundreds of thousands of graves. I need a flashlight
See, I love
so
that
I can see
answer.
where to run from.
I love that answer. For me, just give me a
At
damn
least a
candle.
couple. At
Let me
least.
sit in the woods. I'm good.
No, not a candle, because when you start running, it's gonna blow out.
There you go.
I don't run.
You need a flashlight. I do.
Why are we running?
I do.
Why are we running?
You
I
know
don't
what?
know.
Actually, I guess I'm gonna find out if I run when we go to Broadhead Manor, because I've had a few people tell me that there's gonna be noises that are gonna make me run. Yeah, I'm gonna run towards the noises.
So I have a friend. His name
I
is
will have
Bill.
the camera catching that. Yes.
I
Oh
was
my God.
just at
Bill's
McIntyre
cool.
Villa
I haven't
last
met him
night
in person.
I was just at McIntyre Villa last night for my friend Jules' birthday party, and her husband Zach was there. And Zach is like a walking volume. He is so mellow and so chill, and like he's just unfazed and unbothered by anything. And I told him last night, I'm like, Zach, if you start running, I am going to run and I am going to ask zero questions. And I'm just gonna I'm just gonna run. Because if you're running, it's bad. Like
When you
it's real
hit
bad.
when you hit one of those people that just have that chill energy and they take off,
Yeah, yeah, you better go.
that
You
that
better
is
get
a
you some gone.
yeah, that's a questionable. Do I not or do I? There, no, you do.
Yeah, there is no question. You run and you run faster than they do because so they get got first.
Yeah, because you ain't got. You know what? You ain't got to outrun what's chasing you. You just got to outrun them.
Right. Right. Yeah, ask zero questions. Run now, ask later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But guys, we're at the hour. Tori, if you wouldn't mind just hanging around for like 5 minutes or so
Yeah,
afterwards, I want to do a little post conversation.
Please.
Guys,
yeah,
that
for
was the
sure.
Paranormal Unveiled with Tory Westhoff, owner of Haunted Sleeper Mortuary. Um, thank you so much for taking the hour out of your time to come and talk to us. And guys, I will see you all
Thank you.
next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank you.
You're
See
welcome.
ya.
All right. You get some rest. You had a bad week.
Well, we got the little post thing. We'll be good.
There you
It's
go. All right.
It's,
Good night,
I'm all,
everybody.
look, I told you, I'm all in.
There you are. He is. He's a trooper. All right. Tell everybody good night, and I'm going to pop us out of here.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a great night, and I hope to see you guys next week. Next week's guest is going to be... Oh, I got to reschedule that one. So we'll see. It's going to be a surprise.
Okay. Surprise guest. All right. Everybody have a good night.
See y'all next week.